reconstructed itself, flailed and damaged the car as that car was being brought back to the pits. So the puncture didn't put it out, but the damage from the tyre then did. The other third Toyota that was on the front row of the grid had an electric motor change in the front of the car and a battery change, and that lost it a whole bunch of time. It is still in the race, it is still in 12th position, but it's not going to win this motor race here today in the middle of France. The two Porsches are still going. This is the leading one. The other one is the number 2 car of Brendan Hartley driving at the moment. They also had a front electric motor change very early on in the race, but they have clawed their way back from nearly last, 57th position I think they were at, and they're now in 6th.
Yes, they are looking on course, if they continue the way they're going, to move ahead of the highest placed LMP2 car, which is Ollie Jarvis, 2nd overall, and back into 2nd in P1 and 2nd overall. So that would be good for them. We, of course, would like to see at least, and I think we will, see at least one P2 on the podium overall, which will be an unusual sight. I'm not sure it's ever happened around here before.
Yeah, but they'll be on in terms of finishing 1, 2 and 3. However, I think they'll have their own podium, so you'll have an LMP1 podium and LMP2 podium.
Okay.
GTE Pro, GTE Am in that respect. But it's, yeah, fantastic performances, to be honest with you, and a surprise in some respects that there hasn't been more reliability issues with the LMP2 cars. It's been the LMP1 that has been sort of struggling. Just going back a little bit in history here, in 1923, 90% of the starters finished the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That was 33 cars started and 30 of those cars finished. Now, if that statistic was today, it would have been pretty impressive.
1933, you say?
No.
Sorry, 26.
1923.
1923, that was the first race.
There you go.
2,200 kilometers completed. We're doing more than double nowadays.
I think Alan's just closed up Wikipedia on his computer there.
Oh, I thought he had the knowledge because he was there. Come on, it was all open for you, Peter.
That was his first Le Mans, wasn't it? Back when he was a lad at 21 years old.
Whippersnapper, a whippersnapper.
Indeed. That's Matthias Besch. You can see the buttons. Now, they're going to have trouble getting this thing started. The mechanic says, don't start it. This is the problem with this car. Now it's got to start under its own steam. Lollipop up. Give it all the revs. Don't stall it. He's on his way. There's a problem restarting that car.
They're now having to do that every single stop, aren't they?
To hit it with a hammer.
Yeah. The hammer start.
Now there's the 31 car in. Yeah, full-on hammer time. We've heard that before, but it doesn't quite queen the same in Formula 1 as it does here on this occasion.
So Darren Turner into the pits this time from P2, GT Pro. So interestingly, Antonio Garcia will keep the lead.
Yeah, he'll keep the lead.
So they were always swapping positions before, but this time around,
yeah, the Aston sort of dropped a little bit out of it in that respect. In terms of pit stops, I think you know, the Porsche looks in pretty good shape. It's in 3rd place right now, 18 seconds behind as they come in, but full service there on that car. Drive it out, and you drive it in.
So that must be Daniel Serra going in, I would have thought, because we know Johnny Adam was in before Darren. That's a helmet I don't know, but so I guess the fact that I don't know it, then I guess that is Daniel Serra's.
Daniel Serra, father, former Formula 1 driver Chico, but Daniel has been the Dunlop test driver for these tyres, and he's not only quick, but he's got that extra bit of knowledge about the tyres and what they feel like. And when we had David Richards from Aston Martin and the ProDrive concern up here last night, he said, yeah, we had a very successful test with these tyres at Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium,
Yeah.
And that has put us in even better stead for this race in these very warm conditions here.
And as we know, the Aston Martin is the only manufacturer in GT Pro that is using the Dunlop tyre. Everyone else is using Michelin.
So a very shrewd move by Aston Martin to draft Daniel Serra into this team.
From the other side, it's a shrewd move by Aston to use a Dunlop tyre, because they can build that tyre especially for themselves. They can have Dunlop construct the tyre just for themselves, whereas the Michelin cars, I would pretty much bet that it's the same construction and compound on all of the different manufacturers, and it's going to suit one more than the other, let's say.
Little V4 2-litre engine mounted in the back of that Porsche 919 that is first and second in class. 2-litre turbocharged engine producing some 500 horsepower. Andreas Seidel, the technical director for that crew and that team, nervously looking on. And then there is the hybrid power, the electric power, giving it another 500 horsepower. So 900, 950, maybe even more. 950 horsepower with a four-wheel drive engine, 875 kilos. These pictures are not speeded up.
No. And this is a car 2, which is the one that's recovering, coming back through. Brendan Hartley on board, just jumped into the car and coming up to finish his outlap, and then he'll start his first flying lap. He'll do 14 laps in this stint, more than likely 3 stints, 42 laps total before jumping out. And with 3 hours 52 minutes, then there will, I would suspect, a driver change. You're allowed to do 4 hours in any 6-hour rolling period in the race. However, there's not necessarily a requirement for these guys to do it, because all they're trying to do is to get to the end because of the championship points in the World Championship, which will finalise in Bahrain later on in the year in November. It's not necessarily about fighting for position, because they're far too far behind their sister car, Andre Lotterer, in that one right now, and far too far ahead of Nakajima and the Toyota, the sole surviving Toyota, which is on 291 laps, so basically 10 laps behind them.
Yep, this is part of the World Endurance Championship. It takes place over 9 races. We've already had Silverstone and Spa. Here we are at Le Mans in the middle of June. Next race is the Nürburgring in Germany in about a month's time. Then we go to Mexico City, Austin in the USA, Mount Fuji in Japan, Shanghai, and then Bahrain, as Alan says, in the middle of the... And that's the leader! That's the leader going slowly! That's the leader of this motor race! What's going on? The Porsche #1 with Andre Lotterer is slowing! And he's got a 13-lap lead. He's got to get that thing back to the finish, and this is enormous drama, because if he has a massive problem and he's going so slowly, he's coasting, Alan. I can't even believe he's under electric power.
That's at Tête Rouge.
Downhill.
Yeah, he's got a long, long way to go here, and it's the Tête Rouge, as you say there, Peter, and he's on the inside and he is coasting, and so it looks like that's going to be... Here's the team radio. We've got the team radio from the car. Andre Lotterer inside the driver.
No oil pressure. Guys, what's happening?
Oh,
engine off.
No oil pressure.
Engine's gone.
No oil pressure. Switch it off, so it's coming back on electrical power. The V4 looks to have a problem, and so the engine's off. So he's now trying to get this thing back on electrical power, and that's what they said there. Switch engine off. My goodness, the drama continues. So now Brendan Hartley is the one that could ultimately win this race.
Yes, from nearly dead last. Oh my goodness, look at Lotterer, look at Lotterer. He can't believe it, he's throwing his hands up in his face. Mamma mia kind of sign with his hands. And when there's no oil pressure, there's no oil, Alan. And there's no oil, and that engine ain't gonna last. If that's the problem.
Got to get back to the pits first.
They know, they know.
Well, they're in a sort of bittersweet situation here because Andre's obviously in this car. Second is the Brendan Hartley car in category. However, that means that when we go, we've got another 14 laps for Oliver Jarvis, and then he will be leading outright in an LMP2 car if this #1 Porsche doesn't get back to the pits and have some sort of fix to a problem that it looks like we don't have a fix for.
So they've got to limp it back on electric power. You say there's enough power in the hybrid to get it back. You have a limp home mode. You have to have a limp home mode. You've got to be able to do one lap, because if you come out the pits and you've got a problem, you've got to get it back to the pits. And the only way to do it is to limp it home, even if it's the slowest lap you could even imagine, and slower than walking. It's better to be home, back in the pits, and have a chance of doing something than stuck out on the circuit. Dr. Porsche there standing in the pits just can't believe his eyes that a potential 19th victory for the Mark, but also a 4th victory for Andre, is just seems to be slipping away. 28 kilometers per hour. You can cycle much faster than that. That's 17 miles an hour.
That is a long way back at 17 miles an hour.
Oh, he's just toodling, and there's Oliver Jarvis, I think, passing in the LMP2 car as well, just overtaken.
Yes, so he's unlapped himself. He's got 12 more times to unlap himself, which we reckon will take about 3/4 of an hour, and there's 3 hours and 47 minutes remaining. Oh my goodness me!
So Oliver Jarvis, who
leaves Audi,
who has been trying to win this race in an LMP1 car for so long, jumps in a P2 and has got a possibility to win outright. It's just a fairy tale in some respects, but let's take a breath here, guys, because we have seen situations like this happen much, much later in the race. There's still 4 hours to go. There's still 2.5 Formula 1 Grand Prix, give or take, or yeah, 2 Grand Prix to come. And right now, there's a lot of things that can still happen. This is still a race of attrition and a bit of drama right now with 3 hours, 46 minutes to go with the leader. Right,
let's come back. Can you help me here, Alan? Brendan Hartley is in the #2 Porsche.
Hold on a second.
Let's see if he can win this race.
Andre, try going on and off throttle, slowly.
Yeah, they've had a bit of a debrief trying to go on and off throttle.
He's scrolling through buttons on the wheel. Now, the #2 car did fill up with oil at that last pit stop. Now, this is the moment.
Yeah, he's overtaking. That's into the Dunlop chicane, and that was it.
And it stopped. The car has stopped. Down at the Mulsanne corner, the car has stopped. They're listening to him on the radio.
That's not even Mulsanne, that's not even that far. That's at the first chicane.
Oh.
He's got another 3-4 kilometers to get to Mulsanne.
And as Peter said, that's a long way at 17 miles an hour. Fooled me thinking he was at Mulsanne. He's not even at the first chicane. This is an 8.5 mile circuit, ladies and gentlemen, nearly 14 kilometers in length. As another lap is done by the car that is second overall, it's 12 laps behind, soon to be 11 laps behind. Can Brendan Hartley, who is 5th overall, 4 laps behind Ollie Jarvis, win this motor race? Can't see it happening. He's only 10 seconds a lap faster. He's going to run out of time.
Well, now you've got to, look, you've just got to keep on going and see where it gets to in that respect. First of all, you know, from their point of view, they've got to run fast. They've been trying to do that all the way to get back up as far as they can. Now there's a little bit more impetus to actually deliver, because it could be 25, 50 points, sorry, in the World Championship, plus also in terms of it could be a chance to win this race. But, you know, from their point of view, also look at Oliver Jarvis. I'm going to be interested in his lap times, because he was cruising, he had a lap lead, and now he's got a lap lead, but a chance to win the Le Mans 24 Hours.
Yeah, all of a sudden he does not want Brendan Hartley to catch him up, does he? He's 3 laps behind, as you say. Personally, I think that's still very possible that that will happen. But, you know, anything can happen. We've just about to lose, or we've semi-lost one of the Porsches. The other one we've already had trouble with. You never know what's going to come their way.
There's number 2 just overtaking the stricken number 1 on the side of the road, but also at the same time just unlapping itself from Jarvis, who is currently in 2nd overall leader in LMP2. And so therefore Hartley has just jumped ahead of Oliver Jarvis and brought one of those laps back. 303 laps he's done. 306 for Oliver Jarvis, 318 for the limping home Porsche of Andre Lotterer. As now in the comms box we've got Mr. Moody, Professor Moody, working away on the numbers here on the side.
I'm glad it's him, not me.
Right. He needs... Porsche Hartley needs 3 hours and a bit to overtake Jarvis. He could do it.
Andre, when you can, downhill, let the car roll.
Yeah, try to use the downhill sections to let the car roll so that you don't use energy unnecessarily. Use the energy of gravity at the right points. That's like in a warming up lap when you don't want to use fuel. You dip the clutch and you let it roll down hills. Only use the engine, or in this case the electrical engine, when you really need to, when you have to.
Brendan Hartley is in the other Porsche that we haven't seen for a moment. He needs 3.7 hours to catch, at 10 seconds a lap advantage, Ollie Jarvis. 3.7 hours, that's nearly 3 hours and 40 minutes. If he does 10 seconds a lap, every lap, on Jarvis's Jackie Chan car. No yellows, every lap.
Come back.
8 seconds that last lap.
It's not going to be enough, because Ollie's 8 seconds.
Yeah, but you've got to also look in terms of the fact that Jarvis is going to have traffic as well. And so it's all going to be a traffic-related item. It's about the averages. It's also about who gets in next in terms of that car. They're now in a totally different situation, the Jota team. They've got a fantastic, an unbelievable, in fact, a unique, never, I think, to be seen again, opportunity to deliver something that will go down in history. Now, whether they'll be able to achieve it or not, I think there's going to be a little bit of the gods in that respect. But the gods certainly haven't shined on Lotterer and Porsche. It could be shining on Hartley. It could be shining on Jarvis. We just don't know. Right now, 3:41. We're in a position that I thought I'd seen everything last year. I thought I had when I saw the Toyota stopping. I don't think I have now. You've got to first beat the race before you beat the competition.
The last time a privateer won this Le Mans 24 hours was in 1980.
You know, I remember talking before this race started, and we're saying, okay, you know, there's only 5 P1 pro teams, and, you know, the winner will come from one of those 5 cars, and all of a sudden, we're potentially going to have the winner from a privateer. In a lower class.
Let me correct myself, thanks to Alan. The Joest Porsche back, you know, 96, 97. Same chassis, in fact, that won those 2 years. But for a car that you can purchase from Orica to win Le Mans?
Well, we haven't quite got there yet, but they're delivering at the moment.
Let's see. Lotterer can still get back. And will they be able to fix the Lotterer car? They've got time, they've got laps in which to do it, but he's got to get back. 17 miles an hour, and he's not even at the Mulsanne corner, which is 60% around this racetrack.
Jarvis now getting a little bit of a shifty on. He's flashing the lights. Doesn't need to flash it at the number 1 car because it's slowing down. That's coming to a slight incline. He's out the second chicane now there, Peter, and there's a slight incline. Less than it was before, but because they've taken off the top of the hump. But that's where he's going to use a lot of energy to come up over that hill. Yellow at T17. That yellow is for Andre Lotterer in the number 1.
A stunned silence in this commentary box.
Not working, so you're going to have it out of a bottle. So when we stop...
Now Thomas Laurent, little bit of a pep talk. This isn't your average pep talk. This isn't your pep talk that just into any race. This is a serious pep talk. It could be the making of a racing driver's career.
Yeah, and for Thomas Laurent, this is his first ever Le Mans 24 hours, and he's got a chance of the big trophy.
Okay, car is stopping. That's right. Pull the clutch. Try to start the engine.
He's trying everything. He's trying everything. They read the data book. What's the book about the steering wheel? It's got 20, 30 pages for these guys to remember, but there's a point at which they just, according to which it might not work. Yeah,
but there's also a point where the stress of the situation and the frustration of the situation, and you know, it sometimes needs a little bit of direction from someone sitting calmly looking at it on a page on a book. It's like a document manual. Andre, I think, in that respect, is just sitting, waiting. I know the thoughts going through your head at that point, and it's just despair. It's just where the whole world falls underneath you, and you can't quite believe what's going on.
Oh, my goodness.
Just shows you they've been taking it so easy for hours with that car. Missing all the curbs, careful driving, not taking any risks at all, and then for this to happen.
Toyota last year, Porsche this year.
Race isn't over.
See, my little brain is thinking, what if they were just to take the other Porsche, drive it up behind, and push it back to the pits?
Alas, we're not rallying here, Peter. We're not rallying.
I'm just thinking, get it back. Somehow get it back.
The look says it all. Oh, the belts are undone. The driver's radio's out.
It's over. Porsche out of the Le Mans 24 hours for 2017 with the #1 car. The #2 car remains in this motor race.
No, hold on a second. He's now looking, and is this to I think this is to disable the electric system on the hybrid so that the marshals can push it, so that the car effectively isn't still alive. And you can see the marshals on the left-hand side with the big yellow rubber gloves. And there you see the car #2 that's 5th overall right now. 13 laps still behind the man as he's on the radio there, Andre Lotterer.
So he's got another external radio.
Yeah, but he's not too far away from the car, so he still can, in theory, get back in if they have some situation where they think they've got a rectification to at least allow him. There's Jarvis going back. The second place man's taken another. It's only 10 laps is the difference between Andre Lotterer, parked beside the circuit, and second place Oliver Jarvis in the LMP2.
You can service the car, you can do as you wish, but there's no toolkit in these things. They are so complex nowadays. But can he see if he can get that car running? Nervous, anxious looks down there in Porsche. So then, as the depth of this moment still tries to sink in with us here in this commentary box, they've now introduced a slow zone at that part of the racetrack so that that car can potentially be recovered by the marshals. They're beginning to say, are you going to be able to mend this car, or is it out? If it's out, we need to remove it from a dangerous part of the racetrack so that another car doesn't hit it. Andre Lotterer technically still leads this motor race because he's still got a 9-lap lead, but that was a 13-lap lead a few laps ago, because Oliver Jarvis in the Jackie Chan Racing Orica is closing in, closing in, closing in.
12 seconds was the difference in the last lap between Brendan Hartley. Now the most chance of anybody getting into the lead of this race is now Lotterer is actually back in the car. Both doors open, they're trying to get it into it here. Here's the race director. It's Edward Freitas, his voice we're going to hear, race director.
Team manager, car 1, we are going to push your car into the opening, which is 20 meters ahead. If later on your driver can get his things together to continue, he is allowed to do it. We need to clear the track, please.
That's for safety, just to make sure that they're away while Andre Lotterer is there. This is the second place car, Jarvis coming into the pits. They should do some rectification to the rear of the car, because one of their rear lights is apparently not working as well. And if that is the case, then there's a tail change. Jarvis out, Thomas Laurent in, the young French driver, slides into the cockpit. Now they'll try to do this while the refueling is going on, and then afterwards they'll do the tyres, and then if they do require to change the tail of the car, which will include the rear wing, then they'll do it after those.
Thomas Laurent, 19 years old, never done the Le Mans 24 hours, and he could potentially lead this race in a few laps' time.
What age was the youngest ever winner, Alex Wurz?
20.
Should we phone him? Phone a friend.
Right, well, as you look that up, as the car gets pushed out of the race track, we're on board with the sister car, the number 2, coming past at a speed of 50 miles an hour. As they come down slowly through that slow area, that's on the way down to Indianapolis. Okay, they're back to racing speed when they exit the Mulsanne corner, apologies. There's the green flag. Now they're back under racing conditions here in scorching sunshine in the French countryside. They are on their way down to Indianapolis as he steams past the Porsche GT. This is Brendan Hartley, former World Endurance World Champion, together with Mark Webber, who is here today, together with Timo Bernhard from a couple of years ago. And the sister car that was leading this race overall by some 13 laps looks very stationary after a loss of oil pressure, which is never a good sign for those of you who understand the internal combustion engine. Potentially, well, maybe no oil in the engine at all. That was the big worry. As they come through the Porsche curves, we're gathering ourselves together up here in the commentary box. Goodness me, as the Signatech Alpine number 35 is on its way. That's 4th at the moment, 3rd in class. Pierre Rag is in that car, and he is on the same lap as Matthias Besch, who is in the number 13 Rebellion that he's been sharing with Nelson Piquet Jr. and David Hannemer Hansen. Still got a slow zone where Lotterer's Porsche is being tended to. That is at the end of the back straight, the Mulsanne straight. But the Porsche of Brendan Hartley is now 2 laps and 9 seconds back of what we believe to be the virtual leader of this motor race if Lotterer does net going again. Thomas Laurent is in the number 38 car. The Brit, Oliver Jarvis, the man who won outright the last endurance race in Bahrain last year and who finished 2nd in the World Championship, is now down with Louise Beckett. Louise.
Oliver Jarvis is obviously exhausted. Can you believe this?
Actually, yeah. We were joking about it before the start of the weekend. I think with the increased pace of the LMP2s, it puts the P1s under more pressure, but I mean, I didn't expect all 5 or 6 to go out, but unfortunately, I think the number 2 Porsche will catch us before the finish, or not necessarily us, but one of the P2 cars. But how good would it be to see a P2 winner outright? That would be special.
You've got to have a word for Andre, obviously your former team member.
Yeah, I mean, obviously gutting for him, you know, but he has won it a number of times, so I wouldn't feel so bad if we got to stand on the top step, but you know, you don't ever want to see someone lose it due to reliability. But I'm focused on our race now, and 3 hours, 30 minutes to go, and hopefully we can keep pushing. We're driving well within the limits, trying to look after the car, but I think we might have to think about upping the pace because of the Porsche.
I will let you go and rest and rehydrate. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
I was quite keen to hear whether he was going to get back in, actually. I wondered whether he was going to do the last stint or...
Yeah, I think chances are, in that respect, what you have to do in this occasion is you look at who your fastest guys are, the driving time that they've had, can they physically get in by the regulations, and you've got to go for it. You've got to go for it. You never get these opportunities coming round again, certainly not in a sort of career span that racing drivers have, that's for sure.
Well, that was my question earlier on with Patrick Peely down in the 91 Porsche, leading GT Pro. And I just wondered whether that's exactly what's happened there, but you know, it was quite early, as you said.
Now there's Andre Lotterer trackside, and even Andre Lotterer, tears in his eyes. How close was he to another Le Mans victory? My goodness me. The emotion, the passion, the cruelty, the love we all have of Le Mans coming out.
These slow zones help the LMP2 cars because it reduces the length of the circuit as the 23 cars sitting at the side of the track there. Fabien Barthez, who is more famous in terms of being a goalkeeper for France than necessarily a racing driver, but that is helping the LMP2 cars, reduces the time availability a P1 has got to catch the LMP2s.
So Fabien Barthez, tracksides with his Ligier, regularly part of the European Le Mans Championship, out of this race as well. All that hard work, 3.5 hours to go. My goodness me.
Here's the replay of 2 coming through. It's actually, sorry, it's not a replay, it's a restart after that slow zone. Brendan Hartley in that car. Brendan never won this race, won the World Championship.
Now then, another lap being completed by the number 2 Porsche of Brendan Hartley. Get my breath here for a moment. He's 4th overall.
The irony for me is that that number 2 car has been pushing, absolutely pushing for hours on end, taking big risks, and the number 1 car has just been cruising around off the pace, just saving the car, and it's the number 1 that's out of the race and the number 2 that is, you know, potentially going to win.
Do you remember last night when that number 2 Porsche, Peter, was back in 57th position, and I mentioned about that Mitsubishi on the Acropolis Rally that went out on the first stage, right? This is hang on.
That seems like weeks ago now.
Yeah, it was weeks ago because it was last night. And it was a guy called Kenneth Eriksson, and he said, I'm dead last in this rally. I'm never going to win it, so I'm going to break the car. I'm going to drive over every single rock, cut every single corner, and be a complete hooligan on the car. Finished on the podium. He thought he was going home to Sweden early. Alas, no. He was on the podium back in Athens. He couldn't break the car. That's your analogy, isn't it? With this number...
Well, whoa.
Reel it in, boy.
Easy now, easy.
Andre Lotterer still technically leads this race because he's done more mileage and more laps in that car with his teammates than anybody else here.
We're seeing the 2nd place LMP2 car, the car 13, the Orica of Matthias Besch. We know this car's got a problem starting up again, so I wonder after this pit stop whether it's the rear of the car is going to come off again, the hammer's going to come out, and whether they're going to have to fire it up with using that hammer.
So they do a pit stop. Just to remind you, there is the number 2 Porsche. It is 4th overall. Brendan Hartley, the Kiwi, at the wheel, rushing past us at 210 miles an hour down towards Indianapolis. We had the Porsche number 1 leading, and it still leads. Let us not forget. You must remind yourself of that. It still leads but the previous leaders of this motor race include then the number 7 and the number 8 Toyota, but they are out after accident damage, which resulted in a puncture, which then resulted in bodywork damage and systems failure. The other Toyota failed with a clutch failure. And this is in a slow zone. This is in a slow zone. The car is supposed to be doing 80 kilometers an hour, 50 miles an hour through here. Okay then, Louise Beckett is down in the pits, and she has got Fred Makovici, who's just popped out of one of the Porsche 911 RSRs. Louise?
While all of that's going on with the LMP1s and LMP2s, we've still got such a close battle in those GTs.
I mean, at that moment, it's a really tough race. We still to be 5 competitors in the same lap. I mean, everybody got a small issue, or everybody got a good moment. For us, it was in the night where we were really competitive. Now we know that in a warm condition, it's slightly harder for us.
So what's your strategy for the remainder of the race in terms of stops?
In terms of stop, I think so. At that moment, if nothing changes, it will be a fight between us and the Corvette number 63. But we never know what can happen.
How many stops are you planned?
We still to have 3 stops, I guess, until the end of the race, and after, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you so very much. She's catching up with the insight into the GTE Pro battle. Lena Gade joining us back up here in our commentary position. Lena, part of the Audi Sport engineering background, with their recent success being a chief engineer and winning Le Mans as a chief engineer 3 times. Lena, good morning up here again. What a night, what a morning we've had.
Yeah, I took a 3-hour sleep. Woke up again, the number 1 car was still in the lead, and then didn't see that coming like that. And my heart goes out to Andre. I know how much of a racer he is, and you can see it in his eyes. He's pretty disappointed.
And, you know, there's only so much you can do from the pits. You've got all the knowledge in the pits. You know the manuals, you know the car inside out, upside down. You can try and tell the driver, but at times there's a cruel fate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't really know all the full details of what's happened with that car. I'm sure the guys back at Porsche are looking at all the data, seeing if there's anything they can do to fix it, to get it moving again. On the other side, the number 2 car stopped for just over an hour to do a change to its hybrid system, and it's pushed like crazy since that point. You never, ever give up in this race, and it's going to be close coming to the end of the race with that car and the P2 car.
Lena first, Alan in a moment. What's going to be the atmosphere in that number 2 car, in that number 2 garage at the moment, Lena?
It's easy to get carried away and to think about the end of the race before you've even got there. There's still 3 hours, 21 minutes, so they've got to keep their focus, they've got to keep their heads down, do what they planned, keep pushing to get that car to the finish line. Anything can still happen. I think we all know that. We've seen that at Le Mans. And they can't afford to make any mistakes. That's the bit that they need to work on. Make sure that they're up there at the end.
Alan, what would you be feeling if you were involved in that number 2 car from a driver point of view?
Well, there's 2 sides to this. There's obviously this race, but there's 50 points towards a World Championship, and it brings that completely alive in terms of the big picture of the season. So you've got 2 pictures in your mind right now, or 2 pictures certainly from Porsche's mind. One is, you know, today, where are we going to finish? Is it going to be 1st, 2nd or 3rd overall? The chances are that car will win, and if it does, then it's 50 points. As you can see there, it's silly situations like that, though. That can take it away from you. It's not necessarily your own making. Sometimes it can be just the making of the circumstance. That little clip there can damage, say if it's on the front wheel, it can then send a shock in towards the drive shafts and in towards the MGU, the motor generator unit.
Well, it's what happened when the Toyota was leading, when it had that coming together with the Manor, and then resulted in a puncture. The puncture then flailed, but bodywork, it
sort of moves on. But right now, you know, there's still a fair chunk of this race still to go, and so from that perspective you do have to sort of try and keep calm, but you can't help have that little surge of adrenaline inside you. You just can't help it, because suddenly you thought you had no hope. You've been working all night, all morning with no hope of anything whatsoever, and then boom, you've got a little glimmer of hope, and then that hope suddenly flourishes, and you can see something that you could never have believed 1 hour ago. Never have believed.
It's like that Audi that won the Nürburgring 24 hours. they lost the fuel cap on the final stop, and as they went to find another fuel cap, they thought, should we put the wet tyres on because it's raining even more now? They put the wet tyres on and they won the race in the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, they went from pillar to post with their emotions with the Audi in the Nürburgring. There is Ollie Jarvis, a man who knows about being at the forefront of these races in an LMP1 car. The stopping of the Audi Sport program in World Endurance Championship racing at the end of last year, giving him this opportunity in LMP2, snapped up immediately by the Jackie Chan Racing Squad and the Bentley Racing Squad in GT3. What must be going through his mind? You know him better than anybody, Lena.
He's very level-headed, and he's going to be thinking about what he needs to do to get this job done, to get that car to the end of the race and be on the top step. Obviously, as Alan said, a bit easy to get carried away and start thinking about the end of the race before it actually occurs, but there's still 3 hours to go, and I mean, anything can still happen here, and it's probably going to, isn't it?
Thomas Laurent's the kid in the hot seat right now, and at 19 years old, that is definitely a hot seat. It's not as if he can draw on the experience of many years. If he can complete this and win, he will be the youngest ever winner of the Le Mans 24 Hours by about 2.5 years. The current youngest ever winner is an Austrian called Alex Wurz,
who won on his debut in the big race. Goodness me.
This is a situation. Le Mans can make your career. A race like this, a win can make your career. It can give you the biggest kickstart that you could ever believe.
Here we have the number 91 Porsche. This is Patrick Pilet, the 911 RSR, into the pits. It's leading the GTE Pro category. They're going to keep those Michelins on. They're going to just drop the pressures a little. And they lead this category by nearly a minute. And it takes about a minute to do a pit stop for this car. If they don't put the tyres on, which they're not going to.
Yeah, Porsche are very quiet in terms of where their strategy is. Most of the teams, if it runs green in this category, look as if they could be maybe trying to get rid of a splash of fuel at the end if it runs, as I said, green. It depends on all of these slow zones. If there's a lot of slow zones, you can save quite a bit of fuel, and that will maybe help you in that respect. But it could be this category comes down to purely and simply who pits and who doesn't.
That is your new leader of GTE Pro, the yellow Corvette.
Yeah, it's gone into lead.
It's gone into the lead.
Jan Magnussen.
Oh, careful.
And that's Serra, that's behind him, that's Serra, that's a second place Aston Martin,
yes.
97, that's first and second. Third place has just came out the pits is Pilet in the Porsche that we saw at fourth is Andy Prio, also just came out the pits as well. Crikey me, the drama in the last part of this Le Mans race is incredible for different reasons. This battle's been going all the way. Look at the third place car, Serra there.
Look at them, nose to tail, flat out down the Mulsanne straight. You can't even see the Aston Martin, he's tucked right up behind the Corvette. How close is this? This is like NASCAR bump drafting almost. As they go into the first chicane, they're going to be moving over to their left-hand side. The Aston's going to look. Daniel Serra thinks about moving to the inside, but thinks the better of it. This is an endurance race, not a British touring car race of 25 minutes. You've just got to try and keep it all together. Easier said than done, but these are the best drivers in the world in the best cars in the world.
Yeah, but I can tell you that it could come down to that sort of British touring car where you have to try to do something. As Serra goes for the slipstream of the LMP2 car on the inside, coming down towards the second chicane. It looks like he's got alongside, and he's on the inside. He's going to have the inside line to be able to do it, and he's done it. Serra in the lead. The Aston Martin's retaken the lead from the Corvette of Jan Magnussen.
Couldn't have put a piece of paper between those two cars as the Aston Martin guys look on, and that is going to be nervous times. The hard work they've done, the physical work they've done, the lack of sleep that they've had here at Le Mans this week, but it's that nervous energy, the adrenaline that'll be coursing through their veins, that'll be the mental energy wearing them out even further as we are coming up to midday here in central France, and the temperature gets hotter and hotter on one of the hottest days of the year.
With the performance that Aston Martin has, where he's been able just to eke away that little bit of speed, that overtake is very important, because if he got bottled up behind the Corvette of Magnussen, then you've got a situation where then the Porsche and the Ford would creep closer and closer, and so therefore he had to be able to get past so that he could then stretch the legs. Now let's see what happens with that.
So then, as we concentrate on this GTE Pro battle, that is first and second in class after 21 3/4 hours of running here, and there's nothing between them. The V8 Vantage Aston Martin and the C7R Corvette. British engineering versus USA engineering. That is the next news item, because that is the number 13 Rebellion. It's got Matthias Besch at the wheel, and we're going to hear from race direction of what is going on with that car.
Stop and go penalty with engine cut on car 13 due to a pit lane infringement. Stop and go penalty with engine cut on car 13 due to a pit lane infringement.
So, as Alan McNish pointed out now 3/4 of an hour ago or so, external assistance used by the mechanics. Is that the car?
It's when they were starting the car, they couldn't start it, so therefore they basically took the engine cover off and they hit the starter motor with a hammer. He started the engine, and then they were working on the car with the engine working, and so therefore you can't do that. You can't be working on the car with the engine active as car number 2 comes into the bits. Hence the result, a stop-go penalty for the car that's second in category, third overall with Matthias Besch.
Brendan Hartley is 32 seconds behind that Rebellion before he came into the pits that he's doing now. Stops absolutely on the line as the fuel goes in. They clean the side of the car. Obviously so critical for the aerodynamics and the air to not get disconnected from that part of the side pod. Cleaning the windscreen, keeping the tear off just in case, with 3 hours remaining in this motor race.
They've got plenty of tear-offs on there. They've been conserving tear-offs. I think Conservation Fund there with about 4 or 5 of them. I think they could probably do a tear-off every one if they needed to right now, but ultimately not necessary. Back to the battle for first position, and even although Serra's overtaken Jan Magnussen 1 lap ago into this next corner, he hasn't really pulled away, so Magnussen's sort of been able to keep him in his sights within sniffing distance.
Lena, you've been on the pit wall for so much success here at Le Mans. Have you ever seen Le Mans from this angle? No. Have you ever seen such drama at Le Mans?
There's always drama at Le Mans. It's just how much it's amplified by nothing like this. The GT class is incredibly close, has been all the way through. And what's going on between the P2s and the P1s, I don't think anyone believed it was possible, even if we did talk about it before the race.
I think it was possible if we talked about it 3 or 4 hours ago.
Correct.
Well, yeah.
I'm absolutely amazed the way that this is topsy-turvied, one way or the other, where you're looking at a domination by one team at one point. Days went out, 2 cars of Toyota went out within a space of 10 minutes in the night, and then suddenly the car that was left out in the lead, all it had to do was run to the end, and it's just stopped in front of us. And now the car that went out right at the beginning and had an hour in the pits, more than an hour in the pits, to change the electrical motor in the front of the monocoque, and is now coming back through. However, he has still to overtake 3 LMP2 cars that have been running pretty cleanly, and they will be leading this race in the space of about next 20 minutes.
Well, Corvettes with the Chevrolet boys, they have won their class here at Le Mans 8 times, the last time of which was 2 years ago. The yellow getting on top of the podium. So there you have it. There you have Brendan Hartley ahead of Pierre Rag. So Brendan is on 4th position. So that's 4th on the road with the number 2 car. 5th is the electric blue coloured Signatech Alpine a little bit further back. So he's picking the cars off, picking positions off, picking points up.
Run down to the Indianapolis Bit of flashing the lights. That's more a case of just alert of the Ford, so he stays to the left there, so he didn't have to lift off, and he gets then maximum speed down into Indy, lifts off, recuperates a lot of energy into the right-hander. Fritz Enzinger there was looking very, very nervous when he saw Andre Lotterer stopping. You could see sort of colour drain out of his face. Now he's got a bit more blood back into his system because he can see that Brendan Hartley might be able to recover the situation for the number 2 car.
The pace of Hartley will be absolutely flat out. There won't be anything left inside that Porsche 919 monocoque. But Thomas Laurent knows he's got to up the pace to try and have the total upset of all upsets here at Le Mans in about 3 hours' time. That is a long way away at the moment. Alan, sometimes you've won Le Mans 3 times, but did you drive the last stint every time when you won?
No.
What's it like watching from the garage? That must be almost hell.
Horrible, because you can't do anything about it. The best place is in the cockpit because you're actually in control of the situation. When you're out of control of the situation, the only thing is you've got to have massive trust, and you do have massive trust in your teammates, because if not, then you wouldn't be in this type of racing. And so therefore, even although your teammate is in the car, you're kind of living it with him all the way through. And that's the thing, is you're watching a monitor of the live onboard camera of your car, and you just watch it, and you're looking and predicting the traffic in exactly the same way as if you were sat in the seat itself. And so from that point of view, you know, your energy levels and consumption is exactly the same sitting in the pit box as it would be if you were in the car.
So you're not looking at these pictures, you're looking at a pure onboard shot from your car.
The onboard camera shot that you see when we suddenly go to, say, the onboard of Hartley, for example, that is the picture that you sit there and you look, because that's the eyesight. That's what you're used to seeing through the visor, and hence that's what you know and you understand and you can predict and you can work with.
So, yeah, that's what the car is seeing. That's what the car is seeing. So then, let's catch back up with number 38, getting past the Ford GT as it makes its way through Harnage Corner. They've taken... He leads the race. He leads the race because Lotterer has been removed from the top of the data screens. So the Porsche is out. This is the leader of the 24 hours of Le Mans with 3 hours remaining. I've seen some drama in motorsport. All of us up here in the commentary box have seen some drama in motorsport. I didn't have this in the script. Oh my goodness me. Thomas Laurent, Ollie Jarvis, Hope in tongue.
When you hear that message, you're leading Le Mans, then there is definitely going to be a surge of adrenaline goes through that lad's veins when he crosses the line in about 2 seconds time, as he goes, now he's officially leader of the Le Mans 24 hours. You see 316 laps, 2 laps ahead of Matthias Besch in the Rebellion LMP2 car, and then another 2 laps back to then 3rd place Brendan Hartley,
who is on the podium, Here is Matthias Besch. He's on the pit lane. He's in the Rebellion, the number 13 car. And, that's all not allowed. That's going to be penalty stuff. And that is why, yeah, I know, that's the replay, but that is why they're going to have to do this stop-go penalty. But ironically, can it start?
That's the thing, you have to switch it off.
And this is the 2nd place car, and it can't start. And this is Brendan Hartley in 3rd, and if he passes pit lane and that Rebellion is not out, he's 2nd from 57th last night. That's why we're tracing his progress. The TV director has got eyes in the back of his head. He'll be watching to see if that red, white, and blue car is out of pit lane, and it's not, because the Porsche is now in 2nd position.
Yeah, the car's got going, Besch has got going. However, now Hartley's popped up into 2nd place, overtaken Besch, as Besch was stuck in the pits. They couldn't get that car moving. Mark Webber there on your left-hand side with a little bit of nervousness, you know, as Antipodean and also ex-teammate Brendan Hartley could be coming through to take this race victory, but he's still 2 laps behind race leader.
That's Mark's car, remember. He won the championship in 15 with Timo and Brendan, and it's Earl Bamber that's taken Mark's place in that car, that he's now second here at Le Mans. Leader's lost for words, as occasionally I am, and there's a thing.
You lost for words. Just give you a few words. If you look at Daniel Serra, half a second ahead of second place Magnussen in the Corvette as well. And then you've got third Patrick Peely further 15 seconds behind. And then fourth place in GT Pro, you've got Andy Prio there, 54 seconds back. Incredibly close. Oh, they're smiling a bit more than they were before.
Mark Webber, Andreas Seidel and Fritz Enzinger going through. What a race Le Mans is. After 84 editions of Le Mans, you think you've seen everything. Nope.
And what this does as well in LMP1, it puts Nakajima in the Toyota up to second. The car that's leading the World Championship in overall is now up to second in LMP1.
And he's potentially going to score 36 points because it's double points here at Le Mans.
Yeah.
My goodness me. Jackie Chan Racing leads this race with Thomas Laurent at the wheel. Looks like they're going to put Ho Pin Tung in. Oliver Jarvis out of his overalls. Does that mean, do you reckon, Lena, that he won't be getting back in? What
Maybe
would you have done?
In this situation, you go all out. You put in your fastest drivers without a doubt, and you just go for that win because you've got nothing to lose right now.
You've got this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah.
You're never going to see this type of situation ever happen again, certainly not in our time following the sport. And so therefore you do have to go for it. When you've got one hand on that prize, you grab it and run as fast as you can. That is the only thing you can do. And if you take it any other way, you don't deserve to win it. You've got to go for it. Absolutely got to go for it. Same way that the Toyota had to go for it when it came from behind. Same way that Brendan Hartley has to go for it. Because these guys don't know what it's like to stand on top of that podium point at this time. Laurent definitely doesn't. Brendan Hartley has won other races and championships, but he's never won Le Mans. Matthias Besch has never won Le Mans. He wants to stand up there, and they have to try to attack to get it.
It is the ultimate hare and the tortoise race, isn't it? Between the mega budgets of the big manufacturers and a car that you and I could buy with a big sponsor for €500,000 as a rolling chassis.
Yeah, I think the one thing is, since Audi pulled out, there were 6 P1 cars that went into this race. One was a privateer team. And the thing to take away from this is it was a race of attrition. It's sort of going back to a time when that was actually the case, and it was about getting your car out onto track as fast as you could, faster than everybody else. That's what the number 2 Porsche has gone and done. And it may well pay off for them, and it will be impressive. It will be impressive.
So we're riding on board with Kazuki Nakajima. He is 12 laps back of the overall lead of this 24 hours of Le Mans with 3 hours remaining. Let's take a breath. Let's have a quick look at how it all pans out. The leader of LMP2 leads this race overall with Ho Pin Tung, Thomas Laurent and Ollie Jarvis. The Porsche number 2 was 57th last night after a problem that put it in the garage, and it is now second overall. It is 2 laps back, which is 7 minutes behind the leader with 3 hours remaining in this motor race. Matthias Besch in the Rebellion is 3rd overall GTE Pro is being headed by the Aston Martin with the Corvette right on its tail. The Porsche within touching distance, so the podium for those three cars very close indeed. And GTE AM is being continued to be led by the JMW Ferrari 488 GTE. And it's got Brit Will Stevens at the wheel. We've got another Brit and another Ferrari in second place. That is Aaron Scott with the Spirit of Race Ferrari 488. And we've got Matt Griffin. Matt Griffin, the Irish driver, with the Clearwater Racing Ferrari. So it's a Ferrari 1, 2, 3 in the GTE AM class at present. GTE Pro is much closer to the line, but potentially there's more drama for the overall race victory. Can Brendan Hartley, in the number 2 Porsche, catch Thomas Laurent? Apologies if I keep calling him Thierry. Thomas Laurent by the end of this motor race.
I think I need a cup of tea.
And a tonics.